Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a solid tam with a multicolor band. This is definitely one of my favorite tams, and yeah, I just kind of created it on the spot one day, and I've been meaning to make myself another one and I just hadn't gotten around to it, but today I'm finally getting around to it, so I thought I would show you how to make this awesome tam. Let's get to it. Things you will need: a crochet hook. In today's video I'll be using size J, which is 6mm. Pair of scissors you see in the background, and then I'm going to use the white yarn in the background as well. It's a medium 4. That will be the majority of the color, so the predominant color of the tam will be white, and then I'm going to use those 3 colors probably. I know I'm going to use the red and the turquoise. I might use the yellow, I might not, we shall see. Alright, so we're going to start with our normal slip knot. And we're going to chain out 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do a slip stitch, so we're going to go into that first chain stitch like that. Yarn over and pull through both loops. 1, 2. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to put 14 double crochets into this ring. So that little hole there, that smaller one, that's the center of the ring. 1. So that's the first double crochet. 2. 3, and I will meet you once I've crocheted out 14 double crochets, which means I'm going to have a total of 15 stitches for the round if I count this first chain 3. Alright, so I have crocheted 14 double crochets, and when I count that chain 3, that will be the 15th stitch. Technically it was the first stitch because it's the first one I made of this round, but it makes a total of 15 stitches. Okay. Now we're going to slip stitch into the second chain of this chain 3. So I chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to go into the second chain up and make a slip stitch. So yarn over it and then pull all the way through. And now we're going to chain 3 again. 2, 3. So each new round is going to start with a chain 3. Okay. We're going to put a first double crochet into the same stitch. So this is the chain 3 below. We're going to put our first double crochet in there because every stitch of this round is going to get 2 double crochets. So remember I told you this chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and now you see it has that chain 3 as a stitch and that double crochet is its second stitch in there. So technically this one stitch right here has 2 stitches in it. We move to the double crochet there and we put 2 double crochet into that. 1, 2. And we're going to put 2 double crochet into every stitch. So if the previous round had a total of 15 stitches, then that means this round will have a total of 30 stitches. Okay, I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I want to get back on right when I had my last double crochet of the row because it can look a little confusing. So here's the chain 3 from the round below. There's the chain 3 from this round. We have one more stitch, one more double crochet to put 2 double crochet into. Okay. And I haven't been saying pause the video and I'll meet you at the end, right? I just tell you I'll meet you at the end of the round. So that tells you that obviously you should pause the video so you can have time to crochet the remaining stitches. Alright, so this round had 15 stitches. Since I put 2 double crochet in each of those stitches, this round has a total of 30. Make sure you count your stitches, is very important. And now we're going to do a slip stitch into the second chain up of this chain 3. So 1, 2. By the way guys, if I am moving too fast for you, I have another tam video on this channel that you can look at. Okay, so if you've never made a tam, check out that video first and then you can come back to this one. So I did the slip stitch, and now I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Remember I told you that every round will begin with the chain 3. So now I am going to put 2 double crochet into the next stitch, which is there. Remember the previous round I started by putting another double crochet into that same stitch, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to go to the next stitch, and I'm going to put 2 double crochet into that stitch. So 1, 2. Okay, and this will be our pattern. So remember, these chain 3s are kind of like double crochet. So I put 1 double crochet into one stitch, okay, 2 double crochet into the next stitch. That means for this stitch, I'm going to put 1 double crochet into that stitch, and then in the next double crochet, I'm going to put 2 double crochet. 1, 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way around. This last stitch here, you can always tell the last stitch of the previous round because the next stitch is that chain 3. Okay, so this is the last stitch right there. It should end with 2 double crochet. I'll meet you at the end. So I'm just going to come on a bit early. I'm not quite done with this round yet, but I've said this in other crochet tutorials of mine, but I like to count, so I just did a 2. And this is how I do it. I say the number out loud that corresponds to the number of stitches I'm putting into the stitch. So in this case, 1, 2. So I know that I need to put 2 double crochet into that same stitch. Okay. 1, I'm in the second to last stitch, and now I'm into the last stitch. 2. And that's how I keep track. As I said, you should end with the last stitch getting 2 double crochet. So we're going to slip stitch into the second chain from the top, and we're going to chain 3. 2, 3. Okay. This next round, we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So that's the chain 3. This is the next stitch. So 1 double crochet into that stitch. 1. And now we're going to put 2 double crochet into the stitch thereafter. So not that one, but this one, the third stitch. So 2. So right now we have the pattern. If we look, 3 stitches in this round. 1, 2, 3. 3 stitches. 1 stitch for that one, 1 stitch for that one, 2 stitches for that one. So our pattern is 1, 1, 2. Let's go. 1, next stitch, 1, next stitch, 2. So I put 2 double crochets in that same stitch. Pattern repeats at this point. 1, next one, 1, next one, 2. So I put 2 double crochets into that same stitch. Okay. We'll repeat this pattern, and I will meet you at the end. Don't forget 1, 1, 2, and it'll end on the 2. Alright, so I forgot to tell you that for this round, the round before, you should have a total of 45 stitches, and then for this round you should have a total of 60. So 1, 1, and remember we're going to end with 2 in that last stitch. This is the last stitch, because there's a chain 3. 2. Okay, so now we're going to slip stitch into that second chain of that chain 3, and then we're going to chain 3. Okay, so just to recap, here we have a total of 15 stitches. Here we have a total of 30 because we put 2 stitches in each stitch. This round we only doubled every other stitch. Remember, this was the 1, 2, 1, 2, so we only added 15 stitches, so we should have a total of 45. And here we did 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Okay, so we added 15 more stitches, which gives us a total of 60. Now, in this row, this is an easy row. This is not an increase row. So we're just gonna put 1 double crochet in every stitch. Okay? So this stitch has the chain 3, which counts as the 1 stitch for it. So we're gonna put 1 stitch into the next stitch, which is there. 1 stitch in the next, so 1. It's going to be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way around, okay? It's simple enough. Alright, I will meet you at the end. Alright, 1 into the last stitch. Like every other stitch, we put 1. Alright, we're at the end, and now we're going to slip stitch into the second chain of the chain 3, and then we're going to chain 3. Okay, so you notice that this probably started to curve up on you, and the reason it did that is because we no longer increase. So it continues to spread out while you are increasing, right? But as soon as you stop increasing, it starts to curve. So we did not do an increase row so that it could start to curve a little bit, but now we're going to go back to 1 more increase row. So in this row, the pattern will be 5, 2. Alright, so we have our first stitch of the row, that chain 3, that counts as 1, okay? In the next stitch, we're going to put a double crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've done 5 stitches in their own stitch, 1 in each stitch, and now we're going to do 2 in the next stitch. Okay. So the way you count this, and that's the pattern, and we'll end on the 2 when we get back around here. It's 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1, and then 2. Or if you want, you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2. You can count A, B, C, D, E if you want, whatever helps you keep count. That's what I want you to do, okay? And once again, I didn't mention it, but in the previous row, since we did not increase, we should have maintained 60 stitches, the same 60 stitches that we had before. At the end of this row, you should have a total of 70, okay? So don't forget that 5, 2 pattern will end on the 2, and I'll meet you at the end. 3, 4, E. You're like, where'd that letter come from? And then 2. And remember, this is the last stitch. There's that chain 3 that lets you know that that's the last stitch. So 2. Okay. And as I said, we end on the 2. Slip stitch into that second chain. I like to go and get some meat in there. And then, like that, chain 3. So now, we're no longer doing any more increase rows. We're done with all the increase rows for this tam. We will do 1 decrease row later on, but we got a lot of just maintain 70 stitch rows, or rounds, rows, whatever you want to call them for now. So at this point, since for the remaining rounds in the foreseeable future, I'm just going to be putting 1 double crochet into every stitch. I could place a stitch marker now because I won't really have a way of distinguishing between the rows. So I could just put a little stitch marker in there, okay, and close it up, and then this will let me know how many rows I've done of it, okay. I'm probably going to do 10 of these rows in the same color. That's another thing. In the previous tam video, I switched colors at this point, so I didn't really need a stitch marker. But since I'm still going to be maintaining the white for a while, it's good to put a stitch marker in. Now, you might be saying, well, Atreyu, you didn't tell us we needed a stitch marker. Well, you don't. Say you don't have a stitch marker. Not everyone has a stitch marker. You can take one of your other color yarns, just take off a little bit, use your crochet hook, and then we will just insert it into that bottom chain like that. We will hook the red onto the hook and then pull one side through while you hold the other, and that serves as a stitch marker, okay. So we'll know that this is the first round where we are not increasing from this point up, okay, or this point down, because the tam technically will be like this. So this is a good place to put a stitch marker, okay. Now I'm just going to continue on, and I will meet you once I have completed 5 rounds. Alright, I know I promised that I would meet you at the end of once I had completed 5 rounds, but I can't help it. I'm such a hoverer, right? Just want to make sure, I mean, you guys should know this, but just in case you don't, just want to show you how to end each round and go to the next. It's the same thing we've been doing all along. So this is the last stitch. Put my 1 double crochet into the last stitch, because I've been putting 1 double crochet in each stitch. And then here's the beginning of the round. I go into the second chain up, so I slip stitch just like I always have, and then I chain 3. And then I continue on, right? 1 stitch into every stitch. Remember, this chain 3 counts as a stitch in that chain 3, so you don't put a double crochet in there. We only did that one time, and that was the round where we put 2 double crochet in every stitch. That needed 2 stitches, so we had to put another double crochet in there. But since then, we've only needed 1 stitch there. So, and just continue on. Okay, now that I've been hovering too long, I will move on and really meet you after the end of 5 rounds. Okay, so just checking in. Here's the stitch marker, and I've done 5 rows. So this was the first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I want you guys to do 5 more, and I'll meet you there. Alright, so hopefully, as you can see, there's the stitch marker way down there. I've done 10 rows, and I have 1 more double crochet of this row. You guys know how I like to pop back on just before I'm done with the round. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the second chain, like I've been doing all along. Okay, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to cut my yarn. Pull like that. Okay, so now I'm going to insert my hook. Here's that chain 3. I want to insert my hook, and see this, these are the 3 colors that I'm going to use. They're all medium 4, and I'm going to put it through like that. So almost all 3 all 3 are in the front, and then I'm going to go on the other side of that chain 3 and pull them back to the back like that. And now they're all 3 in the back. And now I'm just going to tie a knot. Just a little knot like that. And then I want to tie another one, because I like to make sure things are extra secure. Okay. Alright, so now that I have separated these yarns, this can get very messy really quickly, okay? So I'm going to start with the turquoise, and then I'm going to go into that second chain again, the same one, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through to the front, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to grab the other 2 colors and lay them on top while I crochet 4 double crochets into the next 4 stitches. So yarn over, this is the next stitch, and I crochet over those 2 colors. Same thing, okay? And this is how you get the colors that are not being used to kind of show through the main color, okay? And I'm going to crochet 5 at a time, and then I'm going to switch to another color. So now I'm going to go for the red. You're just going to have to rearrange your yarn every time, but it's okay. I'll go for the red, so that the red will sub in for this blue. Okay, so now I yarn over, pull through, and then I tug on the blue so that it's barely noticeable. Okay, and now I'm going to crochet. I'm going to grab these 2 colors because they're no longer the main colors, and I'm going to put 5 double crochet into the next 5 stitches. So make sure I got the blue and yellow, and then the next 5 stitches I put 5 double crochets, or 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches, like that. 4, 5. Okay, and you can see the blue and turquoise showing through there. You can see here the red and yellow showing through there. So now we're going to pick up the yellow, pull that through, and then we're going to pull on the red so tight so it's barely even noticeable. And now we're going to grab, and you may have to kind of untangle your yarn as you do this. So now we'll grab the turquoise and red and crochet over those in the yellow. Okay. Three, 4, 5. Okay. And you're just going to continue doing that. So I started with the turquoise, I've done red, yellow, so that means turquoise is next. So grab the turquoise yarn, yarn over, pull through, and then I pull very snugly on the yellow so that that loop disappears. So untangle, do whatever it is I need to do. Just be patient. This can, you can get flustered if you allow yourself, but it's not that big of a deal. Just take your time. Okay. So I grab the red and the yellow, put them over the stitches like that, and then I start double crocheting over those 2 colors, just like I did at the beginning. Okay. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to do 5 stitches per color, keep alternating, and I'll meet you at the end. Alright, I am to my last 5, and I need to switch to the red. So yarn over, like I've been doing all along, pull it through, and then go back and pull on that turquoise super tight so that that loop disappears. And as I said, it can get pretty hectic with the yarn, trying to make sure it's not tangled. Just take your time. Basically, all you want to do is make sure that the yarn that you're going to be crocheting with and weaving around your fingers, that is not tangled with the yarn you're going to be crocheting over, which are these 2. So if it's separate, then you're fine. So yarn over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so now we're going to go over to this chain 3, second chain stitch up, go in there like that, and slip stitch through. Okay, chain 1, cut your yarn, because now we're about to go back to the white, and pull through. Securely tighten it. Okay, We can go back in here, and at this point, because we are still attached to the skeins for these colors, just cut them as well. And then we can tie ourselves some knots. I like to tie the closest ones together first. Like that. A couple of knots. And then here I'll tie this one a little bit looser so it's not snagging on the work. Like that. Okay. Alright, so now it's time to go back to the white. Here's my white yarn. Here is a crochet hook. So I'm going to go into that second chain up again, that same one. I'm going to yarn over, hook the yarn on, pull it through, and then chain 3. 1, and make sure you hold on to the tail there so it doesn't slip out. 2, 3. Okay, in this row we're just going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch like that. Alright, I'll meet you at the end of this row. I know, here I am hovering again. I just want to show you something here that looks like an extra stitch. Remember how I told you to pull the yarn tightly? Well, sometimes it can still give a little slack and it'll look like there's an extra stitch. So I want you to make sure that you only put 1 stitch into each legitimate stitch. So this is a double crochet. That's really nothing. If I were able to pull that yarn again, it would disappear. So make sure the next double crochet goes into the red one. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anytime the color changes, you might have that issue. So that's nothing, right? The next double crochet is the yellow one. Alright, I just wanted to mention that to you guys so you didn't end up unintentionally increasing. Okay, so I've completed my row of double crochets, 1 double crochet in each stitch. I just slip stitch. I'm going to chain 3 for this next row, and this is the decrease row. So the decrease row, the pattern is 5 stitches and then decrease in the next 2 stitches. So that's 1, 2, still making double crochets, 3, 4, 5. Now let me get up close so you can see how the decrease. So basically we're going to turn these 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So you yarn over, go into the first stitch, yarn over, go through 2. And while you have 2 loops left on your hook, you yarn over again and you go into that next stitch, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, and now you have 3, and then you yarn over and go through all 3. Okay, and you see, if you look at the heads, there's a head for that stitch, there's a head for that stitch. Here are 2 stitches and there's only 1 head, so we've decreased. Let's do it again. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we have to decrease on these 2 stitches right here. So yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, go through 2, and you have 3 left, yarn over, go through all 3. And we're going to repeat this pattern, the 5-2 pattern, all the way to here. And we're going to end on a decrease, so we'll decrease on these last 2 stitches. I will see you there. Okay, I'm on the last iteration of the pattern, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now on the 6th and 7th stitch, I decrease. So yarn over, go in, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into that 7th stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3. Slip stitch into the second chain up, And now for this last row, it's just going to be a row of single crochets. So we decrease to make the hole smaller so that it fits more snugly onto our head. And then single crochets will kind of do the same thing because they're smaller stitches. It'll kind of close it up even more, and it'll give a nice rim. So for this, since it's only a single crochet, we're going to chain 2. And then we're just going to put a single crochet into every stitch. Like that. Okay? And you see, maybe, maybe you're able to see. By the way, notice this is where I decrease. Only one stitch goes in there. See that? And then we go to the next stitch, which is there. So one stitch went in for that too. So that confirms that it is a decrease. But see the nice little ridge, brim, not brim, but nice little ridge pattern it gives? Alright, I'll meet you at the end of this row, and then we will wrap up this project. Alright, I'm in the last stitch here, even though it's 2, but it's only 1 stitch because of the decrease. So I'll put my single crochet in there like that. And with this chain 2 here, it's laying kind of flat, but it really is a chain 2. You're just going to go in the top chain and slip stitch. So slip stitch into the top chain of the chain 2. I kind of went behind it there. Let's try it again. There we go. Chain 1. Cut our yarn. Pull through. And we are done. You can go back and take out these stitch markers. Do you see the yarn stayed in there the whole time? So it works perfectly, brilliantly as a stitch marker as well. I used a size J for this tam because I wanted it to be a little bit bigger because my locks have grown since the black one, right? But you can use like a smaller size, maybe H. Okay, but yeah, this is how you make a tam with a multicolored band. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one. P.S. If you're worried about all of these strings, you can just tie knots a couple of times and then cut the strings down. It's on the inside of the tam, so it really doesn't really matter all that much, is my point. Okay, so I just tied knots. I'll tie another one here just to show you what I mean. So a couple of knots like that. Normally I would weave them in, but it's just not that big of a deal. And then I like to leave this tail in, and because it kind of serves as the tag, I always know where the back is. By the way, if you don't want to do that, you can always identify the back by where the chain 3s are, okay, for each row. That's where you started, and therefore that's the back. Alright, now I really am leaving. Ciao!